Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for our committee meeting. We'll begin with our first committee this evening, the Committee on Environmental Conservation, Renewable Energy and Parks, to be chaired by Legislator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. I hereby call to order the Committee on Environmental Conservation, Renewable Energy, and Parks. This evening, we have an informational presentation from Alexander Likens, who is the chair of the Schenectady County Environmental Advisory Council, also known as SCEAC. So thank you so much, Alex, for making the time and putting this presentation together. Could you begin by just giving this body a little bit of background on SCEAC?
Certainly. Thank you. So no, that was the answer. All right. So yes, I'm, as Sarah mentioned, I'm Alexander Likens. I'm the executive chair of Schenectady County Environmental Advisory Council. We are a council of, up to 14 members that meets on a regular basis to advise the county on various matters pertaining to environmental sustainability. We kind of exist to assist the county in making those decisions and providing insight. Many of our members have jobs outside of the council, full-time jobs where they do a lot of this work for various different state entities, NYSERDA, and other sustainability professions as well too. So we act as a resource, and Sarah May and Legislature Russo as well are our chair and vice chair. And I want to thank them too, because they've been very present in the past few meetings. So thank you for providing that support. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Climate Draft Scoping Plan, which is the essentially, we'll get into it, but the framework to implement the New York State Climate Act. And this is mostly an educational presentation for the legislature to inform you about what this is, since some of you probably aren't aware of it potentially, and how it might impact Schenectady County, what opportunities there are there. And then we'll kind of go into a question and answer section as well. Any questions on SCEAC before I begin? I don't know if that's the way this works or not, but.
And I'd just like to add that these members serve in a fully voluntary capacity, and we're very grateful for all of their expertise and time and just generosity. And we're always looking for new members, so that's something that we can always talk about with anybody who's interested. But it's a great group, and we're so grateful to each and every one of those individuals for their time and expertise.
Yes, certainly. Thank you. We do have a few empty seats right now that we're looking to fill. So if you have any recommendations, please feel free to reach out to myself, Sarah May, or Rich Russo, and we'll take them into consideration. So as I mentioned, the draft scoping plan is a framework to implement the ambitious goals of the Climate Act. The Climate Act is also referred to as the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, or the CLCPA. And it is essentially New York State's climate goal to reach greenhouse gas emissions neutrality, essentially, by 2050, along with a few other goals that are wrapped into there around renewable energy and other clean energy resources as well. So the framework outlines several pillars, impacted economic sectors, and also a few policy recommendations as well. The first four pillars of the draft scoping plan are, as I mentioned, net zero emissions. So that's kind of the cornerstone of the CLCPA, that 2050 overarching net zero goal, and 100% renewable electricity by 2040. Climate justice is another pillar of the draft scoping plan. It essentially is looking into the considerations and impacts and prioritization of benefits for what they classify as disadvantaged communities. Schenectady County has 13 disadvantaged communities, 12 of which are in the city of Schenectady and one is in Rotterdam. They're based on census tracts. We can go more into that later if you'd like. Just transition is another pillar that focuses on workforce development and transition away from the fossil fuel economy. So making sure that that is a just transition. If folks work in any gas transmission and distribution, for example, making sure that they're able to find a career path where they're not going to be transitionally unemployed. Public health is the fourth pillar, and that's essentially just looking at the increased negative health outcomes due to climate change and making sure that those can be mitigated. There are 6 sector-specific economic strategies. So those fall into the buckets of transportation, electricity, buildings, industry, agriculture and forestry, and waste. These are specific key economic strategies that the Climate Action Council that developed this draft scoping plan put forward to help decarbonize these specific economic sectors. The reason I'm kind of glossing over a lot of this, just to let you know, is this document is 800 pages long, so it would take me a few days for you to really give you the breadth of it. I'm going to put the link in the end of my slides here if you're interested in looking into it at a deeper level. There are overview fact sheets that consolidate that quite a bit, but it is a large document. So I'm not going to go into every single key strategy that exists within these different economic sectors, but they all relate to decarbonization, various different programs and policies that are recommended to decarbonize these sectors and ways to finance those decarbonization efforts as well. And then finally, the draft scoping plan focuses on statewide and cross-sector policy initiatives, looking at economy-wide strategies, so strategies that span all of those 6 sectors and other sectors that aren't mentioned within the document. Gas system transition, as I mentioned, the majority of the CLCPA is going to be looking at transition away from fossil fuel. A large portion of that is natural gas used for heating buildings and also production of electricity. So that section focuses on policies to look at the transition of that in a way that doesn't impact, residents of New York State or lessens the impact of, negative impacts in that regard. Land use, a big portion of this is also looking at the net GHG reduction. So, conservation of forest lands and agricultural lands and various different agroforestry practices that will add a carbon sequestration benefit are looked at in this document as well. And then obviously local government is going to be the section that probably is most pertinent to most of you in this room. So I'll focus on that in the next slide. And then adaptation and resilience, which is essentially a sector to look at what the negative impacts of climate change are in terms of increased volatility in weather and how those might be mitigated. For example, the ice dams that build up in the Stockade region might be an example that's pertinent to Schenectady. So the local government key strategies, there are 5 key strategies in this area. They are clean energy community dashboard, local energy policies, clean energy siting and support for local governments, community clean energy initiatives, and state support and guidance. And essentially, the community energy dashboard is the Climate Action Council is looking at developing a tool that would be free to use for local communities to track their GHG and energy reduction targets, and essentially a way for communities to implement that, since the majority of tools out there right now are not free to use. And if this is an effort that New York State wants local governments to participate in, they're looking to remove that barrier through that key strategy. Another strategy is the local energy policies. There are currently 2 programs that Schenectady County does engage in, the Clean Energy Communities and the Climate Smart Communities programs. This section also talks about expanding funding that go to those programs so that communities can, engage in those more and engage in the activities in those more, and then also looking at other programs that might be pertinent to that as well. The third strategy, clean energy siting and support for local governments, focuses on development of model laws for communities to potentially adopt or at least look at when they're looking at laws that pertain to zoning of clean energy resources, solar, wind, heat pumps, et cetera. And then also simplifying and streamlining the permitting process for those types of technologies as well. The fourth, Community Clean Energy Initiatives, is focused mostly on supporting community-wide adoption of clean energy technologies at the residential level or, small commercial level. And it also focuses on workforce development heavily as well, through financing various different workforce development programs and incentives to implement these types of strategies. And the fifth and final strategy is state support and guidance. So that's provision of technical support and financial support for interconnection, since that's a large barrier to clean energy systems, direct energy purchase, fleet and building electrification, energy benchmarking, and also waste reduction, which is a big portion of greenhouse gas emissions that the CLCPA focuses on reducing. And with that, any questions?
And we can take any questions at this time.
I'm just going to make a couple of comments and thanking you, Alex, for all the effort. I've had the good fortune to be part of the committee, and thank you, Chairman Pratt, for leading the way. These are important topics and important plans, and this adaptive strategy and resilience that is outlined here is incredibly impactful to our community and to our county and to everyone as we move forward. So I just want to say thank you this is a lot of work, and it's a lot of hard work, and you're wrangling a lot of people together, and we appreciate your volunteerism and desire to see this through and to create such impactful documents that move the needle. So as part of the committee, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to speak to the resolution that was recently adopted by SCIAC?
Certainly. Yeah. So we recently adopted and unanimously passed a resolution in support of this draft scoping plan. We do believe it provides a lot of guidance and potential support for Schenectady County that Schenectady County can take advantage of to implement some of these goals that, eventually we're not sure how it's going to work out with New York State, but it is a New York State law, and it is going to be something that is going to impact the county in the future. And the fact that there is a document in place that helps kind of show those milestones and show how there's going to be financial and technical support. It was something that we felt was something that SCIAC should be vocally supportive of, in addition to the obvious impacts of climate change and the potential mitigation strategies that this draft scoping plan offers. So that was, I say unanimously passed. There was one person who abstained because they're part of the New York State Chamber and they're not able to vote on those types of things, but all other members who were able to vote did vote in support of it.
Any other questions or comments at this time? Well, thank you so much for your time, and I believe in the future we'll be bringing SCIAC back to give another presentation on climate change, correct, and the state of the environment. So we look forward to having you back. Thank you so much for your time. And if there's no further questions or comments, we'll go ahead and close the Committee on Environmental Conservation, Renewable Energy, and Parks. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Our next committee is the Committee on Economic Development and Planning, to be chaired by Legislator Hughes.
Call to order the Committee on Economic Development and Planning tonight. We have one item on our agenda, and this pertains to the lease of a hangar at the Schenectady County Airport. It's a multi-year lease for a hangar that already exists. owned by Mr. Bruce Tansky. And I'll turn it over to Ray Gillen, who has more expertise on the details than do I.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Back in 2009, we leased 1.37 acres at the county airport to Bruce Tansky, a very successful local developer, did the Scotia Manor project in the village and done a lot of projects in Saratoga County. He built at his expense a 10,000 square foot hangar on the property and near our tower. And this is a model that we've been trying to utilize at the airport, where we have private investors come in, pay a good lease rate, and also pay property taxes, even though they're located on county property. We ask them to pay a pilot and contribute to the cost of town, school, and county government, and they've agreed to do so. The lease back in 2009 was a 5-year lease with 3 5-year options for a total of 20 years. We look smart in the rearview mirror tonight because we included in that lease a provision that said that it would increase either 3% or the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, each year, whichever is higher. So for many years, the 3% figure was used, but as everyone knows, inflation has spiked a little bit. So we're getting a nice bump in our lease rate because of that clause that we included back in 2009. In addition, Mr. Tansky, as we said, pays full taxes on the property. So he's currently paying just about $8,000 a year for the land lease and property taxes of about $12,000. His current lease ends in 2029, and he would like to extend it to 2039, just so he can continue to plan to make improvements and have his family utilize this hangar for his business and for their family use. The terms of the lease will stay the same. We'll continue to get full taxes, and we'll continue to get CPI or 3%, whichever is higher. The resolution tonight is a request for a public hearing to authorize the county manager to, after the public hearing, come back and adopt this, hopefully, and sign the lease extension with Mr. Tansky. Happy to answer any questions. I want to thank Mark Storty, who works with me very closely on airport economic development. This is part of our airport business park, and we work, of course, closely with Peter Knudsen and Paul Sheldon and Mike at the tower. Move to report.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion is moved to the calendar, and committee is closed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next committee is the Committee on Health, Housing, and Human Services, to be chaired by Legislator Osterlich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Health, Housing, and Human Services Committee is now open. We have 2 initiatives tonight. HHS 14, a resolution regarding the acceptance of monies from the New York State Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance for the Schenectady County Rental Supplemental Program. And we have our commissioner with us, Commissioner Brady. If you can please tell us about this.
Thank you. I'd be glad to. As part of the state budget, the state had allocated $100 million to social service districts to run what's referred to as a rental supplement program. This is a little different. This is something that we have not done in the past. Typically when we have a family or an individual that comes to us and ends up on public assistance, we do provide a shelter allowance, although it is kind of not nearly as much money as the rental supplement program. We were awarded $536,305 as part of the rental supplement program. We are proposing, we had to submit a plan to the state over how we would administer it. We're going to partner with Bethesda House. Our thought on this is that Bethesda is a good partner, particularly around some of our sheltering related to our homeless population. And the rental supplement program is really sort of geared towards those individuals that are currently homeless or at risk of being homeless, and it allows us to be able to pay their rent for a period of time based on the income that they have coming into the household. This is not exclusively for temporary assistance households. This actually extends up to 50% of the area median income. So to put that into a context, that's for a family of 4 in Schenectady, that's about $40,000 a year. So being on public assistance, while it would make one eligible, it's not the sole criteria for the administration of this program. Based on some of the math that we've been able to work out, it will allow us to be able to pay rental far and above what a public assistance grant would allow us to do. With the rental supplement program, it will go up to, for a 2-bedroom, about $1,000 a month. On public assistance, you're probably looking at somewhere between $400 and $600. So what we're hoping to be able to do is to be able to move people out of a shelter setting and into permanent housing and into housing that we may not necessarily have had access to in the past, just based on some of the economics of a public assistance grant. So that's kind of a little bit of the background on it.
Sounds like a great opportunity. Are there any questions or concerns or comments?
Just one question. So what the census of that, if 536, does that help us with?
Yeah, we're
30
estimating,
people, 50 families?
we're estimating it's going to be about 43 families on an annual basis. What we've been told by the state is that obviously it's contingent on the state budget on an annual basis, but they're indicating to us that they would anticipate that they're going to continue to fund it in years future. So I think it has the potential to be a good seed program, and hopefully it'll grow over the course of the next few years.
To me, it's a great capacity planning, capacity execution, move people from the shelters into permanent housing, and hopefully allowing people to be in a shelter that might need it real time. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you.
Legislator Pratt.
Just a quick question. This looks like a great program. Hopefully, we can build on this in the future. So of those 43 or so households, how do you go about choosing, or what is the process for identifying those families?
Some of the criteria that we're going to use involves individuals based on length of stay in the shelter. We're also going to be looking at income that households have, and even if you're in the shelter, you can certainly still be working. So those are some of the factors that we're going to take into consideration as we make determinations around who will be eligible for it.
Anyone else? Can I get a motion to report?
So moved.
Thank you, Legislator Hughes. Was that Legislator Gatta? Oh, Legislator Vano, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That initiative moves to the floor. The second is HHS 15, a resolution regarding the acceptance of monies from the New York State Department of Health, AIDS Institute, Health Research, Inc., for the HIV Partner Services and STD disease intervention programs. And I see we've had a switch. And I welcome Interim Public Health Director Keith Brown. Can you please talk about this?
Sure. So we've actually been in communication with the state for a while about our HIV partner notification and disease investigation program in terms of sort of extra things we could do that we don't have the resources to do. So thankfully, the state has come through with some resources. It's an addition of just shy of $200,000 in addition to our base funding. It's in addition to our base funding, so it is sustainable. Again, the usual deal pending availability at the state. But what it'll allow us to do is do more kind of early identification of cases and treatment. It allows us to do things like academic detailing, which is, we send staff and nurses into providers' offices to try to increase their capacity to do testing and treatment. So it's good. We've needed this for a while. So the fact that the state came through it, it's going to allow us to do a lot more of that.
Great, thank you. Is there any indication about our cases increasing, decreasing, or?
They've been fairly static for a while, and that's really sort of a measure of the fact that we haven't had the resources to do a lot with it. So they haven't really increased or decreased over time, but we'd certainly like to do more to address that, and this will allow us to do that. So.
Got it. Are there any other questions or comments?
Move to report.
Thank you, Legislator McDonald and whoever seconded it. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And that motion is moved to the table. And now the Health, Housing, and Human Services Committee is closed.
Thank you. Our next committee is the Committee on Neighborhood Revitalization, in which I have Legislator Russo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I call to order the Committee on Neighborhood Revitalization. We have one matter at hand tonight. Neighborhood Revitalization 2, a resolution authorizing the county manager to enter into a memorandum of agreement, an MOA, with the Capital Region Land Bank and the town of Niskayuna regarding vacant or abandoned properties. This is a pilot program and a well-thought-through MOA. I've got Ray Gillen, Commissioner of Economic Development, Planning, with me for additional explanation.
Thank you. The land bank, as you know, has been very successful, and we thank Legislator Russo for all his hard work, and it's administered by Metroplex as part of the county's Unified Economic Development Team. Land banks around the state pushed for a change in state law that was enacted last year. It amended the real property tax law to allow for the foreclosure of vacant and abandoned properties after 1 year instead of 4, which is very significant. These are not occupied homes, these are vacant or abandoned homes. And as long as the proper procedures are filed, communities can now take action against these zombie properties. Yeah, yesterday was Halloween, that's the term that is used in the field. So it's much easier, of course, to sell and fix up a property that's only been vacant for a year rather than 4 years. So the land bank here plans to assist, using some additional state grant money that we just received, assist the towns and villages in Schenectady County to comply with the provisions and the procedures that have to be followed very closely in order to take advantage of this new 1-year provision versus the 4-year provision. We're going to provide legal support and technical assistance and actually get out there and train the code enforcement people who are really in our front lines, frontline troops every day at the town level, and help them create a vacant building registry, which is also required by the state law. So this will provide quicker action against zombie properties. It should save the county money because we're making municipalities, we have to make municipalities whole on taxes. And so by taking action quicker, we won't have to be picking up the tab for taxes for 4 years. We can do it quicker. We also help neighborhoods by addressing zombie properties faster. And we have a better resale value on foreclosure sales because the property is saved at an earlier time than 4 years. And I know you're going to take action later tonight on the very successful county foreclosure sale that just happened. I congratulate the team that ran that because they did a super job. So this is a test. We're going to start in Niskayuna, and our plan is to roll this out to all the towns and villages who want to participate and provide them with free training and legal advice using the state grant funding. And as Legislator Russo said, the resolution before you tonight is for to authorize the county manager to sign the MOA. I want to thank Legislator Russo, the county manager, and David Hogenkamp, who does a fantastic job running the land bank, and happy to answer any questions.
I'd just like to recognize Legislator Paterni for his hard work on the land bank as well. Thank you very much for your support and guidance. Rich and I have both been on the land bank a number of years, and this is an evolution of our charter, our mission, and it's a maturity of what the land bank's intent is to do, which is to give a sharp tool to our municipal leaders so that they can expedite and remove the worst of the worst and help support property values in our neighborhoods by removing abandoned and zombie properties, as Chairman Gillen indicated. So thank you, Legislator Paterni.
I echo that, and also note that the Land Bank has been very active, of course, in the city, but it's a countywide resource, and we've had a lot of activity in Rotterdam, a lot of success there. Recently, the effort to help with the boarding up of the McKeel School in Glenville. We've had a lot of activity and success in Niskayuna with your help on Van Antwerp and Cornell. And, you know, these properties dot certain neighborhoods, and by fixing them, you strengthen the neighborhood, you strengthen the whole county. So again, we get tremendous support from the legislature, and I want to thank you. And we're, I think, one of the first counties to really jump on this change in state law that everybody advocated for, to get out there and use it and get the one-year clock running on these vacant or abandoned properties. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Gillen. Any questions from the body?
Just point out that it makes amazingly good sense, and with that, I would make the motion to move it to the agenda for next week.
Thank you, Legislator Hughes. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Legislator Osterlich. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
The motion carries to the agenda, and this concludes the business of neighborhood and revitalization, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next committee is the Committee on Public Facilities, Transportation, and Infrastructure, to be chaired by Legislator Paterni.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'd like to call to order the Committee on Public Facilities, Transportation, and Infrastructure. This evening, we have one item on the agenda, resolution regarding amendments to a lease agreement with Timber Holdings LLC for warehouse shop space. And tonight, we have County Attorney Chris Gardner here to help explain.
Sure. We started renting this property after we sold the Trusco building where we had our workshops for our facilities. We have about 4,000 square feet. The rent's $869.63 a month. And we use this property right now for a workshop, but also for storage. This is a 2-year agreement. In year 2, either party can terminate the lease with 30 days notice. This will probably be our last lease extension. Mr. Roth is looking to develop that property, but it's definitely available for the first year. And then the second year, either side can terminate the lease with 30 days notice. So we're gonna have to look for another workshop in the very near future, but this has worked well for us.
Very good. Any questions? Move to report. Second, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. This item is moved to the agenda, and the Committee on Public Facilities, Transportation, and Infrastructure is now closed.
Thank you. Our next committee is the Committee on Public Safety and Firefighting, to be chaired by Legislator Constantine.
We'll call to order the Committee on Public Safety and Firefighting. We have 3 items for you tonight. First is PSF 21, resolution regarding the acceptance of monies from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for pretrial services. And with us tonight is our Director of Probation for Schenectady County, Tim Farrar.
Thank you. We're here tonight to request legislative approval to accept grant funding in amount of $384,299 to support Schenectady County's pretrial services. Schenectady County Probation is currently Schenectady County's certified pretrial service agency. This money was based on a 5-year average of arraignments in Schenectady County's lower courts, which is all the city and town courts in our county. And the primary goal of pretrial services is for probation to support people in returning to their next scheduled court appearance. And just to give you a little breakdown of how things have changed in the last 5 years. So with bail reform that was initiated in 2019 and passed in 2019 and implemented in 2020, some of our numbers in 2018, a quarterly average of people placed under pretrial services was 33.5 persons per quarter. So that'd be like January through March 31st. The average in 2022, we averaged 248 per quarter. And as of 5:35 today, our department is currently supervising 217 people in the county. What we're looking to do, which is actually a 640% increase from 2018. Some of the things that we're looking to do, if we're allowed to accept this funding, is to implement a screening and assessment tool prior to arraignments. And also looking at implementing more supportive supervision and reporting programs. Some of the suggestions are like certain offenses, like gun offenses, looking at putting them on GPS pending their next arraignment, and also meeting with the city and town judges to see if there's other offenses that they feel more comfortable in supporting the community safety and the people that we're also serving in monitoring them, whether it be GPS. Also looking, one of the other issues is like homelessness. So a lot of people, unfortunately, we have the responsibility to support them in returning to court. Unfortunately, when they appear, they don't have any housing or shelter. So we're gonna look at developing relationships so that we can support them in having a residence, in having shelter, being more targeted as far as supervision with actually looking at accessing resources with substance use, mental health, employment, substance abuse treatment. And we're hoping with all of this, we could increase community safety and also increase their likelihood of appearing at their next court appearance.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the director?
Just one. Can you dive in a little deeper on that screening assessment? I'm curious about that and wondering whether that tool could also be, provided to the court in terms of their determining bail, no bail, whatever.
So we've been looking at Niagara and Monroe, they're currently doing screening, pre-arraignment screening tools. So we're looking at piggyback and not recreating the wheel, but using what their tool is. And we're gonna meet with some of our judges, and we would like to implement this tool pre-arraignment, and also having, when someone is put on pretrial, they have an order or condition of release. So having more targeted conditions specific to that screening tool, and then we can give the judge a little bit more information. It's still their prerogative, but as far as what our input is, and with this tool, we would have a little bit better idea of what the risk and needs are, and it would support us in supporting the community.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions?
I'm just curious how the DA's office works with you on the pre-training school tools.
Well, we're at the beginning stages, so we just did the tool. So we're gonna be meeting with the DAs, public defenders, and conflict resolutions to come up with a plan, and then we would present that to the judges.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Director Ferrara, similar question. I think I heard the answer, but so this is pretrial screening and activities, probably things that have been going on for a long time. Niagara seems to be leading the way. Are there other templates, or is that the template from the state of New York when you guys look at your trade practice and your professional services? Do they have the best template, or are there other, entities that we should be gleaning information from?
So what we did is we scheduled a web conference with all the representatives throughout New York State as far as probation departments, and DCGS was also a participant. And pretty much, I think Albany also uses it. So numerous counties are using this, and it's one that we're deciding to go with. And they're on the forefront, and it's being validated through the VERA Institute in New York City. So it's a good instrument. And if anyone would ever want to come and visit and see what we're talking about as far as numbers or view the instrument, feel free to.
Appreciate that invite, and thank you for utilizing funds in a smart and effective way. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director. Motion?
Move to report.
Second?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Non-appearance, is there a large issue with that, non-appearance people?
Yes.
Yeah, a large percentage?
Like 25% are revoked.
Really? Thank you. Sorry, Tom.
My apologies. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any against? Thank you. Move to report. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Second item tonight will be PSF 22, a resolution regarding the acceptance of monies from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for Terrorism Prevention and Cybersecurity Programs. And with us tonight is our Director of Emergency Management for Schenectady County, Mark LaViolet.
Okay, we have 3 grants tonight. The 2 of them we do yearly. Another one is one that we put in for. The first one that we do yearly is our SHSP, State Homeland Security Program. That is $272,829. That is the exact same amount that we got last year. That goes towards emergency management and public health personnel. We're also going to purchase new technology, deployable camera scanners, and we are going to assist the UCC with some upgrades there. The second one is another yearly grant. That is our EMPG, our Emergency Management Preparedness Grant. That one is $63,344. That is the exact same as last year also. That one goes for emergency management planning personnel, along with emergency equipment maintenance and supplies. The third one is a new one that we put in for this year and we were fortunate to get. That one is for $64,753. That is the Technical Rescue and Urban Search Rescue Grant. The City of Schenectady Fire Department's Confined Space Rescue Team was in need of some equipment. And Plotterkill Fire Department has a rope rescue team, which helps us out at the Plotterkill Reserve several times a year, it seems. So we were able to get those guys the equipment that they were requesting also with those monies.
Thank you, Director. For clarification, we will discuss questions on PSF 22. That's the large $273,000. Are there any questions? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Anyone against? Thank you. PSF 22 has been moved to the floor. And we'll get to PSF 23, a resolution regarding the acceptance of monies from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for Technical Rescue and Urban Search and Rescue Programs. That's for $64,753 that Director LaViolet just explained for assistance with the City of Schenectady and Plotterkill. Are there any questions?
Move to report.
Second? A second. All in favor? Against? PSF 23 is moved to the floor. Thank you, Director.
All right, thanks.
Let's see it. Is it 24? Is that the one he claimed? Mark's all set. Sorry, I was just thinking he spoke out of turn on the other money, sorry. And our last is PSF 24, the resolution regarding the acceptance of monies from the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for Emergency Management Equipment and Personnel Services, and that's for the $63,344 that Mark explained, and that was it was my error. Are there any questions on the? Any questions? Second, all in favor? Aye. Anyone against? PSF 24 is moved to the floor. Public safety and firefighting is closed.
Thanks again. Have a good night.
Thank you. Our last committee meeting of the evening is the Committee on Ways and Means to be chaired by Legislator Fields.
Thank you. The Ways and Means Committee has now come to order. First item is Ways and Means number 7, a resolution authorizing the mortgage recording tax distribution of $1.9 million to various municipalities in Schenectady County for the period of April 1, 2022 to September 30th, 2022. Jackie Falatico.
Yes, so the mortgage recording tax distribution schedule's before you. Not much more to it aside from authorization to distribute that.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution's been moved. The next item, resolution number 8, will be tabled. We have some technical issues with this resolution, and hopefully we'll bring it back in next week. Ways and Means number 9, a resolution to authorize the county manager to enter into contract with Triad Group LLC for workers' compensation services. It's one of yours.
Sure. We're asking for authority for the county manager to execute a 3-year contract renewal with Triad Group. They are our third-party administrator, TPA, for our workers' compensation services. They also help us administer benefits under Section 207C of the General Admission Law. And also, they help us do disability retirement claims. We've used them since 2013. The annual administration fee is $100,000 for the first 110 claims. After that, there's an additional $400 charge per claim. Additionally, Triad receives 28% of PPO savings, which is the medical group that helps us provide medical care for workers' compensation injuries and illnesses. They also do receive $3,000 annually for MMSEA reporting, $2,500 annually for OSHA reporting. They handle our nurse management claims for 207C and non-207C cases, also PAR responses. Overall, they've done a great job for us. Most importantly, I think they've helped us clear up a backlog of folks who were eligible for performance of duty or accidental disability retirement and were on extended 207C. So they are saving us several $100,000 each year by making sure that folks aren't on 207C forever and they can get their benefits from the state retirement system. So I think they've earned our trust and recommend it go forward.
Any questions?
I feel like I want to ask a question about this only because I'm afraid I understand it. But could you just stay around 20,000 feet and explain a little bit how that takes place? Assuming they're kind of managing these cases at some level, in some manner?
Yeah, every workers' compensation case goes to the Workers' Compensation Board. They ensure that we have representation in all these cases. They do, there's extensive interaction with the medical community, getting independent medical examinations done and things like that. So if we want to do surveillance, if somebody we believe is cheating on workers' compensation, they help us set that up as well. So the medical part of it, the legal part of it, the retirement part of it, the 207C part of it, the basic benefits part of it, Triad does it all, and they do it very well.
Sounds like thank you. That's a very good explanation. I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Just one more. Do we self-insure all of our comp, or do we have a comp policy that backs up big claims?
We're self-insured.
Thank you.
Move to report.
Second, all in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution's been moved. Thank you, sir. Resolution number 10, resolution regarding cancellation of interest and penalties for tax delinquency for the non-for-profit.
Yes.
Certain non-for-profit, not all non-for-profits.
Not-for-profit. Thank you. So Living Resources, a local not-for-profit organization, has a number of properties in the region. They purchased a specific property in Scotia in November of 2016 through a series of errors, and then COVID sort of got in the mix of things. The exemption paperwork that was supposed to have been filed for this property was sent to the wrong municipality. It was not ever received by the municipality it was supposed to have been received by, and thereby created a tax bill when there wasn't supposed to have been one. We got involved earlier this year, and at that point, the statute of limitations for 3 years for correction of errors had lapsed. So at this time, we're asking for authorization to cancel the interest and penalties on the property, forgiving $9,000 that have been accrued.
Due to an error.
Yes.
Move to report.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution's been moved.
Are you waiting for me, or am I waiting for you?
I can take a cup of water and get a drink.
I'm noting that the remainder of the calendar is items that were discussed earlier tonight in public safety and firefighting, and I'm wondering if you, as chair, would entertain a motion to move those 3 items as the calendar in its entirety.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Second on behalf of a motion by Mr. Hughes, first and second by Mr. McDonald. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this resolution, remaining of the calendar, has been moved. And with that, Mr. Chair, the Ways and Means Committee has now come to an end.
Thank you, Legislator Fields, and that concludes our business for this evening. Thank you all.